Greetings. Greetings and felicitations to you, from me unto you. Okay, confirmation. Can you hear my voice at this time? Let me know. Excellent. Okay. I assume nobody can hear my voice because you are not saying anything. Oh, there it is. Very nice. This is the story of a man who comes to Skyrim with a shit ton of baggage. Okay, enough of that. Okay. So the rocking boat is just a part of the Solitude Docks mod. Now, it's a bit janky because the mod author decided to use that boat for some kind of a mini quest of some sort. So, in order to make that happen, they had to do some crazy stuff with it. So if we go look at it, you'll see what I'm talking about here. He had to actually embed another building inside it to get it to work right somehow. So you get this weird stuff going on. And you get weirdness down here too. See, like, look at this. Right? So some things will rock and some things won't. But the boat is large enough that from a distance it looks fine.
I used to be an adventurer like that.
Okay. Seasickness emulator. I believe I like that. That is an apt description, I think, of this thing. So, here we are, back in the Skyrim. Now this boat here can do nothing. It is just for show. But we are going to use this boat in the story. So I hope you have gotten used to the idea. This boat will have a function. This function will be minor at best. However, it will be used. So, I don't know why I'm telling you this. So what is the goal for tonight, eh? To go over just a few things. I don't anticipate a long one here. But we are going to test some mods, huh? We're going to talk a bit about this story. I'm stuck over this. Watch this. Do you see this? Okay. This is not barbarian. Don't be silly. You silly person. Do I look like a barbarian to you? Well, actually, don't answer that question. It is not a question for the answer. It is simply a statement. Okay.
Like me, eh? Don't fancy those clunky two-handed weapons.
No, I don't fancy those clunky two-handed weapons. I do not fancy them at all. In fact, there is very little about me that is fancy. Now that I think about it. Alright. So, let us observe. Observe. Cassius. Dismiss the Cassius power. Summon the Cassius power. Okay, this. Yeah. Do I need that? I don't really need that. Okay. So, we have some things to test here. I tell you what. Let us go back down here. And I'm going to try something. I'm a fucking gazelle. Look at me go. All in this heavy armor. Okay.
What is it?
Nothing. Okay. You are about to be guinea pigs. Get ready. I'm going to make a quick save here. And then we are going to exit. Let's see. I hope everyone is well. I'm good and whatnot. We are getting close here. 40-some days until this story starts. And there's still a lot of stuff that is up in the air for me. A lot of things that I'm mulling over. Now, I know that you guys who are part of the Cabal, you have the inside scoop on a lot of stuff. But we're getting to that stage now where I'm starting to pull back a little bit, and I'm starting to think about things that I want to hide, even from the Cabal, because I do want there to be some sense of surprise for you, which I think would be nice, right? So I'm going to probably let you in on a few more things, but most of it's going to be things having to do with just the mechanics of how jazz is coming together here. Okay. Let this go. Now, that's not to say I won't be having live streams. I will be. But I'll probably be careful about, what things I reveal. We can talk about certain mechanics of how things are put together without revealing story elements if we don't want to. Okay. Okay. Let's see. So, facial hair. Boom. All right. He doesn't look half bad like that. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a quick prayer. All right. So, Oh, stop it. Dumb fuck. Okay. So we're going to add some ragged trousers. 8F 19A. All right. So I'm going to get a sense here for what the man's going to look like when he arrives in Skyrim. And we're going to do a quick run through. It's going to be a test of a mod. Okay, commit this to memory. Hairstyle is 12. We get something a bit more wild looking. Okay. That's pretty good. Perhaps 27. Yeah, 27 is good. We're looking for something crazy. So, one of the things we got to figure out is how he's going to be introduced here. Okay. So the thing is that Kaleo he's in a bad situation, obviously. We've discussed this, but what does that actually mean? This is a man who's in a bad situation in that he's basically been, sentenced to death, but his sentence is going to be carried out in a style that is particular to the military and specific to the way to a method that an officer might be subject to, right? We've talked about how the transgression that he has committed is something that the military considers heinous in such a way that they are going to subject him to a certain amount of punishment. Now, when we talked about it in the past, we've always said the situation really is that he's been judged by a military tribunal to basically have conducted himself in a way that was not only unbecoming of an officer, but beyond that in terms of its severity. However, because we have a faction of soldiers in the army who are both enlisted men like grunts and officers who actually believe that Kaleo was in the right to do what he did, in their infinite wisdom, the powers that be within the hierarchy of the Imperial Army have decided that the best option they have is to basically make him unpledged. And by that, they're stripping away his rank, they're stripping away his unit affiliation, and they're leaving him out in the cold to fend for himself. And the deal is that he's either going to survive it or he's not. He is going to be in control of his own destiny, but their concern was that if they outright executed him, that there would be division in the ranks, and they were concerned about mutiny, basically, amongst men who supported the man. Because remember, at this point, this is a guy who's basically got about 30 years in the army. He's been a legate for quite some time. He's been in the field for years, commanding men. There's a large group of soldiers, both men and women, within the Imperial Army who have worked with him, who have served under him and respect him highly. And then there's another group that hasn't. So rather than risking dividing the ranks, they basically give him this status of unpledged, and they let him loose and say, okay, it's up to you. If you can survive, good for you, right? But this is a status for him that has an indeterminate end. Nobody is saying, hey, you have to survive for a month or a year. They're basically saying, you are now unpledged. Good luck. So I'm explaining all of this because the way that Kaleo views this is that he is being punished, and in his view, he deserves the punishment, and he has fully accepted the punishment. And so as such, when he arrives in Skyrim, he is coming with this unpledged status willingly, knowing that everything that happens from this point onward, he deserves. So he has accepted his fate, and as such, he is not considered to be a flight risk or anything like that. Nobody is concerned that he is going to run away. Facing his punishment is the honorable thing to do. So when he arrives in Skyrim, he will be doing so, having been stripped of his rank and his gear and his division affiliations, but a willing participant in this process because he knows that he's dishonored himself and he deserves his punishment. So when the story starts, he's going to be able to walk off the ship himself, and he knows exactly where he needs to go. He knows that he needs to go to Castle Dour, and he needs to report to General Tullius, and that his fate is up to General Tullius. So he's accepted that fate. So when he leaves the ship, he will be in this condition, having come off of 2 years in prison and probably, I don't know, several weeks on board this ship sailing to Skyrim. And I think what I'm going to do is I'll probably place some Imperial soldiers on this ship, and I'll do a little bit of voice work or something like that, where we'll basically say, okay, they're saying to him, okay, off you go. You know what you need to do, all right? And at that point, he walks off the ship. And I'm setting all this up because he's going to go willingly. And then I think what I'm going to do is we'll have some music playing in this, and then we're also going to have a voiceover, which will be a reading of the letter from Field Marshal Jonah, written to General Tullius, that basically explains the situation. Okay? So we've gone through that letter before. If you're not familiar with it, you can find it linked on Discord. It's in the library with all the other documents I've written. Basically, it is a letter addressed to General Tullius from Field Marshal Jonah, who was Kaleo's commander for many years. And basically, Jonah is saying that, you know, Kaleo is a man who should be treated like the convict he is, but please understand that he did what he did for a reason. I'm not saying he was right. And Jonah is also going to make sure that General Tullius understands that it is her opinion that this is also a man who's not deserving of a command. And it'll kind of lay out for our viewers exactly what unpledged status means. I am here. Take me to Castle Dour. All right, we're going to see how this works. I can already tell there's some funk with it, but we're testing this specifically because Balefish is trying to get it to work like we need it to. So we're going to see what path the soldiers pick given the mods I have here. But the idea is that I wanted him to have some kind of an Imperial escort, right, to where he needs to go. So the idea is that once he engages in conversation with the officer, that the officer will lead the way to Castle Dower, and Kaleo will follow. Okay. He's going this way. That's fine. We'll follow along. Let's see what happens. Actually, I don't think I was supposed to go through that door. Let's see what happens.
You lost?
All right.
Oh.
All right. Let's go to the castle. And so what we're going to do is we're going to change out this dialogue so it sounds more like the sorts of things that he would actually say. Yeah, this is... You're supposed to go through the front gate, so it's not quite working. That may be a function of what I've got installed here. Everybody's stuck now. All right, so let's continue. See what happens. The other thing that's going to happen is I think I'm going to have advanced through this solitude execution business. I don't want the execution happening when we come into town, so I'll probably go through that first so we don't have that going on. So at this point, this gives us a kind of a nice backdrop for reading that letter. That'll help to set up the story, and then by the time we get to the doors of Castle Dower, we should be in a good situation to kind of set the story up how we want to. Now, I'm not going to do the normal Civil War start. There are some things there that will also be hidden from viewers. Some things that I will also do in advance.
I'd be a lot warmer and a lot happier with a belly full of meat.
All right. So this is actually working. The interaction with the soldiers is working as expected. The route they took to get here was not what was expected.
Disrespect the law, you disrespect me.
All right. So at this point, we can talk to the officer, and we can basically have some dialogue here or whatever. We can say, you know, thank you for the escort.
If it's arms or armor you need,
And then they go
Bay
about their
Rand and Castle
business.
Dower.
Yes. Off
Bloody
they
good
go.
blacksmith, that one.
Imperial.
All right. So off they go.
What do you need?
Right? They deposit him here. And then we go in. And at this point, I'd probably go black and we'd have a story loading piece here. Yes, that's true. So there's going to be some beard trimming and stuff like that going on later. So all of this business that we're hearing in here, that's all will be skipped through that. And I'll actually have probably another save already prepared where we are going to take Kaleo and we're going to deposit him in a cell in the dungeon here. So let's go check this out. I haven't been down here in a while, so let's figure out what we want to do.
Never.
So are these all empty? So if this is where we come in,
You won't get anything out of
maybe
me.
we'll take the one straight across. All right. So I'd probably have a save prepared already with Kaleo in here. Like this. So, and we can do a little bit of voiceover as well. Basically, Kaleo explaining in his own words what has happened. He walks into Castle Dower. Tullius doesn't even see him and just has the guards immediately deposit him in this cell. And here he sits and waits. Okay? So, in the next phase of the story, there's going to be two characters that are featured down here. One of those characters is going to be General Tullius himself. Tullius is going to come down here eventually, and he's going to talk face-to-face with Kaleo. Now, we won't actually hear Tullius's voice because, obviously, I don't have any voice files of Tullius saying the things I want to say. So, some of that will be told back to viewers through the voice of Kaleo, but some of it will come out in conversation, and that'll be conversation that Kaleo has with a soldier who's been assigned to guard his cell. So there's going to be two NPCs. One NPC will be a guard standing outside his cell, and one NPC will be basically a follower version of General Tullius that has been created by Bayofish so that I can use him as a prop and do things with him, right? So we'll be able to have some cutscenes or various things that we want. Basically, I'll have a staged save file here with all the players in the right places, and I can do, a story loading screen. I can come to this, load it up, and I can do any voiceover that I need to do. So essentially what we're doing is we're trying to set up the preamble for the story, and in the preamble for the story, we have to really drive home this idea that Kaleo's status is not a thing to be taken lightly. It's not superficial. It's not a slap on the wrist. Being unpledged is supposed to be horrifyingly bad. So, in order to really drive that home, I think the guard that is outside his cell will be somebody who is on Kaleo's side, but it will become obvious that Tullius is not. And Tullius's view is that he's not here to be Kaleo's executioner or anything like that. However, he's basically going to use Kaleo as his personal attack dog. And what this allows me to do is I'll be able to set up a couple of quests of my own creation where Tullius will make arrangements with this guard to, under certain circumstances, let Kaleo out of his cell to perform very specific tasks. And remember that Kaleo has accepted his fate, so he is going to perform these tasks for Tullius without any hesitation and with very little pushback of any kind. He's just going to do what he is ordered to do. So one of these things will be an assassination of someone in Skyrim, or not Skyrim, but someone in Solitude specifically. There is going to be another one, kind of another minor thing, I guess, a small sort of quest that Tullius is going to ask him to do that will take him outside the walls. And then we will also use this mechanism or this relationship between Kaleo and Tullius to perform, I guess, the quest that Legate Ricca has you do, where you actually go and attack the fort and root out all the bandits. What we're going to say is that it's not Legate Ricca that assigns that task, but it's General Tullius that has him do that task. Right? So he will basically perform 3 attack dog tasks for Tullius, where, he's let out of this cell late at night. He has to sneak out of the city or through the city and do these things that Tullius requires. And each time he successfully completes a task and returns to his cell, Tullius will reward him with an additional piece of gear or some kind of resource that he can use. So, the first thing that he's going to have to do, for example, he'll probably only have his sword. That is it. And he'll have to do it in his ragged pants or whatever, right? The second thing he has to do, he'll probably be given his shield at that point, and he'll have to go and perform that task. And then, finally, the third thing he has to do, rooting out the bandits in the fort north of Solitude, he will be given a bow and some limited quantity of arrows and his sword and his shield. The idea is that having completed that third task, he will be given his armor, and he will be given the ability to, the privilege of getting a bath, of obtaining a razor so he can cut his hair and shave his face and put on the armor that we will see him in most of the adventure going forward. So that's kind of the idea, right? And at that point, Tullius will say, well, you've done the things that I've asked of you. So your orders are to report to Camp Argentum. And then at that point, he will be released from his prison cell here in Skyrim, and he will be left to march on his own across an unfamiliar land to Camp Argentum, and he'll try to get there alive, right? And at that point, of course, we have completed the beginning portions of the Civil War quest line. So at that point, all the Civil War hostility will have kicked in, right? So that also means that having completed that quest, that the world outside of this jail cell will have erupted into full-on civil war, and it's going to be a very dangerous place. So that's the rundown on how that's going to work.
The Emperor's cousin, Vittoria Vici, is getting married. The reception will be...
So we've got the patrol. The mod that Baofish created was a patrol so that we could get our escort of soldiers to Castle Dower.
No lollygagging.
And then he's also created the Tullius NPC for me. I'm going to create an NPC of just an Imperial soldier to serve as the guard that we've got outside there, outside his cell. And that'll be that. That kind of sets everything up. At that point, it's just all about timing, right? So I have to do all of this crap and get that all out of the way so that it doesn't interfere with the storytelling.
I don't abide fancy clothes, but you look like you might.
Okay.
I hear Radiant Raiments has a large selection.
Okay. So at that point, then we've got our ultimate situation, whereas the guy here is going to be in what I would consider to be sort of his final form, right? So we go down to 12. Okay. And this is what we reveal, right? After he gets his hands on a razor, he's able to trim his beard and cut his hair, and now he's kind of in fighting form. And at that point, Tullius has given him all of the stuff that we would expect him to have, and he's earned every bit of it, right? He's gone out and he's done the killing that General Tullius has asked him to. But what this does is it allows us to pull in all of those things while also driving home what being an unpledged really means. He is literally a slave to whomever wants to abuse him at this point. Okay? And, I mean, I guess, to me, that's like, it's super important that we kind of establish the severity of what's going on with him very quickly so that viewers understand that his status is not a joke, right? It's not a joke. He is persona non grata where the Imperial army is concerned, and they will not support him, and they will trash him any chance they get. We will have opportunities later on to reinforce the idea that there are some soldiers in the army who support him, but their support for him is something that's kept secret. It's not something they speak out loud, because showing support for this man who has, you know, done these things would probably put their careers at risk, right? So, hopefully that makes sense, and now I already know, basically this scenario means that I've got to make up 2 little quests of my own. One of them I've already determined. I've already determined what Tullius's first demand is going to be. I haven't determined what the second one is going to be, and then of course we already know what the third one is, because that is part of the standard Civil War quest line. So, hopefully, that makes sense. I'm psyched about it. I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to really help to establish the gravity of his situation. Okay. So that is how that's going to work. Now, let's load something fresh here. Actually, now that I think about it. Okay, let's quit this. Balefish had made a specific recommendation that the patrol scene is something that I use specifically and then disable. So, following that advice, we'll disable the patrol scene. Okay. Disabled that. Let's relaunch. So the other thing that I want to do with this is the beginning of the story that I described to you just now. Not only will it allow us to set up the severity of Kaleo's situation, but it will also give us an opportunity to make a statement in the story about Kaleo's resourcefulness. All right? And so, yes, he's resigned himself to his punishment, but he has not yielded. All right? There's a difference. He's resigned himself to his fate, but he is unyielding. Now, what that means to me is he recognizes that what he did was a monstrous thing, but he isn't completely convinced that he did the wrong thing. And he's certainly not going to lay down and die because he is stubborn as hell. That's one of his characteristics. He's not going to roll over. So, because Tullius is letting him out to do these certain tasks, but he's ill-equipped to do it, he's going to be taking every opportunity he can to loot his enemies, and he will wear whatever armor that he can find. He will use whatever weapons he can get his hands on, right? He'll gather up any riches and potions he can get his hands on, any food he can get his hands on. But before he goes back to his cell at night and presents himself to the guards, he will be taking all of that loot that he finds, and he will be burying it somewhere outside the city in a hidden location, and he'll be returning to that stash every so often to gather up whatever he needs to help him stay alive and complete his mission. So that allows us to convey something about his resourcefulness and his determination to live. So these are the things that will be the tension in the story. Is the tension in the story is about his punishment and his sentence of death and his unwillingness to accept the results, right? So that is it. So, well, yeah, we'll be using the hidden cache, and he's going to be stashing all kinds of things. So when you go up there and you take out those bandits in that fort up there, they are loaded down with all kinds of things that would be useful, and he'll be gathering all of that stuff up and stashing it wherever he can. So when he leaves Castle Dower, he will be in this gear, but he will also have a secret stash of food, and he'll go and get that food, and he'll grab his backpack, and he'll grab all the potions and whatever else was there, and that'll essentially be his starting gear. And at that point, then, he's going to have to hoof it on his own all the way from Solitude to Camp Argentum and try to stay alive. And the thing is, of course, that he doesn't know the country, so he's going to have to stick to the roads, and sticking to the roads means he's going to be a magnet for bandits and other nasty types. Okay? So, that's the plan. We'll see. It also gives us the ability to build up a few levels, a little bit of skill before heading out into the open countryside, because it is freaking dangerous out here. Very dangerous. Okay. All right, since we streamed last, I made a couple of different announcements on Discord, a couple of upgrades. I have gone through and cleaned all the master files. I have made some adjustments to the radiuses or the U-grids in my game so that we don't have quite as much pop-in going on when we're in the forest. We'll still see some of it, but it won't be nearly as bad. And then we're also using Ominous E and B, which I just think looks fabulous. Oh. These archers. Always my bane. Okay, and remember at this point, too... When we start him off in the story, he's going to be starting at level 10. And in the lead up to the beginning of the story, I will be spending all of his attributes on health. This is going to help us simulate the idea that he is suffering a little bit physically. He's suffering a little bit physically from 2 years of confinement. He is a man who would be determined to stay in shape. But even so, there's only so much that you can do in a cell, okay? Yes, Tullius will send him out. By the time he leaves Tullius, he will have all of his gear. So in order to complete the first Tullius mission, he will get only his sword. All right? In order to complete the second Tullius mission, he will have a sword and shield. In order to complete the third Tullius mission, he will have a sword, shield, a bow, and some arrows. And then after completion of that quest to clear out the bandits in the fort that kicks off the Civil War quest line, he'll return to Tullius, and Tullius will basically say, okay, fine, I'll let you go. Report to Camp Argentum, and here's your armor. Get lost. And at that point, he'll be on his own. So when he hits the road, he'll be garbed just like you see him now, and then he'll have on him whatever food and supplies that he was able to acquire during those Tullius missions that he kept in his stash. All right? Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, I can see him. I can see him in his cell doing push-ups, doing sit-ups, running in place, grabbing onto the rafters and doing pull-ups, you know, stuff like that. Anything he can do to keep himself in shape. But, you know, and he's going to be getting, you know, probably 3 square meals a day as well, which means generally his muscle endurance is going to be decent and his health is going to be decent. But his cardiovascular capabilities are going to be depleted significantly, right? Because he can't do any distance running. He hasn't run for 2 years with his full gear on, right? So that's kind of how we'll be playing that. See, now look at how this forest looks now. I can't believe, like, I thought that this forest was scary before. But now it's even crazier. And the ominous ENB I'm using with ENB Helper, so it's working in conjunction with my weather mods. So we get, you know, lots of thick mist and fog, which is pretty awesome.
Need something?
What do you need, stranger?
So then we're going to be making this trek to Camp Argentum.
I can take you. Then all of the race. I'll see you in pieces.
See, it gets dangerous here. Ah, done. I didn't see those guys.
You won't leave here alive!
So anyway, in a live stream, I'm going to have to be super freaking careful all the time. And let's... full disclosure, I'm playing at apprentice level difficulty right now. Level 8, apprentice level difficulty, if I remember correctly. I am nowhere near any kind of high level. Yeah. And it's possible that some of those first missions, I may have to even bust the difficulty down to novice for the sake of the story. I'm hoping that I don't have to do that. But those first missions that he's doing, he's going to be doing without the benefit of armor. You know, so I gotta take that into consideration, right? I think the idea that, you know, if I do this as a live stream, the character is going to die periodically. There's no way around that. But gratuitous death and playing levels over and over and over again kills the mojo of the story completely. So I have to constantly figure out how I'm going to strike a balance between difficulty and caution and all of these things. And that is how I prefer to play anyway. But it's definitely going to, you know, significantly amp up the tension. And remember, we are using signature gear here, but at this level, when he's starting out, his gear won't have any levels on it at all. You only acquire levels on signature gear by using that gear, by getting into combat. So I think I'm just going to have to be extremely cautious at low levels. And I'm also going to have to be very careful about what I invest my perks in as well. Giant. All right, well, let's make our way to Camp Argentum. I think we're going to mostly enjoy the aesthetics. Whoa, that is bad. What do we got? Okay, we survived a Spriggan. Whew. Okay, used all my potions, though. That's bad. You know, that brings me to another point, too, is... okay. Here, hang on a second. This is what I do. Like, I lay in bed at night thinking about what the right balance is for the story. And one of the things that crosses my mind is, by the time we get this character up at higher levels and towards the end of this story, are people going to be completely fatigued with sword and board combat? Is my question. Let's not make this guy mad. He's not gotten a beef with us yet. So let's keep it that way. Hey, big fella. All right, so if I'm just, you know, thinking about this objectively, I feel like I need to add something in, right? If I'm going to stay away from range weapons for the most part, I feel like I need to add something in, and I want there to be some additional interest in the story, some different directions that we can go. So one thought I had was introducing some restoration magic of some sort. Yeah, crossbows could be an option. Crossbows could definitely be an option, some kind of an Imperial crossbow. Yeah, Sagramore is a good example, I think. Let me think here. You know, maybe that crossbow idea is actually a good one. We could go with a crossbow and have Tullius basically give him an Imperial crossbow before he completes that final mission, so he would be equipped with it from the start. Remember, at the start, he's also not going to have this weapon. That weapon is going to come much later, if at all. We'll have to see. So the crossbow idea could be a good one. So for that, I'd probably use something like faction crossbows, which I love. There's an Imperial crossbow in there that we could use, and we could upgrade. That would make a lot of sense. All right. This is where we got kilt before. Oh, shit. Okay. Damn. All right. Let's make him guess. Let's not make it too easy for him. You guys know how I tend to be about this stuff. I tend to play characters who are kind of at the extremes of style. And the reason that I do that a lot of times is because I don't want to fall into this temptation of using the crossbow all the time or using the bow all the time. So I force myself away from those patterns. So that's one thing that concerns me about that a little bit. Okay, this is... Uh-oh. Had a floater there. Oh, shit. Frickin' Spriggan. Came out beyond the battle. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be a stealth archer. Okay? So I have to be like super careful about that. In one way, I mean, the crossbow might be a good way to avoid that simply because if I do a crossbow, then I kind of have to make all of my own ammunition. Right? You don't find ammunition just laying around everywhere, so I'd have to use the ammo very sparingly. Whereas if I go with a bow, I'm basically picking up arrows everywhere. So that could be a good solution. From that perspective, right? So maybe crossbow is a good way to go. I'd have to go out of my way to make that ammunition, which I think gives it more scarcity, which is probably to my advantage. Oh shit, that's a bear. Yeah, I wouldn't use the exploding one. None of that kind of crap. I think I would stick with standard steel bolts. That reminds me as well that I'm going to have to... I'm going to have to set up my config file for the Civil War as well to make sure that there's no landmines or exploding arrows or any of that kind of shit. And of course, in this playtest right now, we haven't started the Civil War quest line yet, so these guys don't really give a shit about us. Even though we're dressed head to toe in Imperial, they don't care. There is the practical matter too, though. I think he would use them on creatures, right? And what I mean by that is he would use them for hunting, right? At least at the beginning levels, he's probably going to be in a situation where from time to time he's going to have to hunt for his own food. Sure, he'll scavenge a lot of things. But I would like to sort of at least establish that he is a capable hunter and can fend for himself. So I could see it being used for hunting and stuff like that. But I think what I might do is just establish a set of rules having to do with the circumstances which he would use the crossbow, and then have it correlate in some way to military tactics, right? So if he's using a crossbow, he's not typically using it as a stealth weapon. He's using it like soldiers would use it to fire a volley into oncoming enemies before pulling out the shield and charging in, right? So I could even do something as simple as saying that, yes, he uses a crossbow, but he never uses a crossbow from the crouching position, right? The crossbow is something that you use in the face of an oncoming enemy to fire a volley, right? And that right there would be all the limitation I would need, right? So, yeah. All right. You guys are good. You convinced me. I think we're going to go with a crossbow. We'll go with a crossbow. Plus, it's another thing that will make him unique, right? All the other Imperial soldiers in the game are going to be using bows. Imperial bows and spring steel bows and stuff like that. So... yeah, exactly. Offensive. It's an offensive weapon, so it's not used from stealth. You line your people up behind the shield wall and you fire a volley into the enemy, and then you charge after you've softened them up. And it's all about intent, right? And I can convey that intent not only through how I use the weapon, but how I speak about the weapon. Okay, that guy's not attacking. All right, here we go. Okay, this is what ominous looks like on a sunny day. Okay, so you can see the pop-in issue, right? If you look over there.
Prepare to die! Damn you! I'll see you!
So the forest is actually thick, and it extends all the way to Whiterun, but we can see Dragon's Reach from here. That's kind of the pop-in issue, all right? And it's way, way less obvious when we have all the fog and mist. I don't consider it to be a showstopper at this point. I've extended it as far as I'm willing to, you know, with the U-grids, and I haven't seen any drop in performance or anything like that, so I think it's okay. You know? But with Ominous E&B, this is about as sunny as it's going to get. Well, that's good to know. I'm glad that it wasn't immediately noticeable to you. To be honest, this is the spot on the map where I noticed it the most. Is at this intersection. Now you can see the pop-in, right? Now it's starting to thicken up. This is one of the few locations along this road where you can actually kind of see to the horizon a little bit and where it becomes more obvious. It's less obvious on, you know, areas where the things twist and turn more. Okay, now let's... Okay, so we got a number of different things at work here. We've got our engine effects. And I'll need to establish some clear parameters around when and how those suckers get used. Okay. All right, let's hotkey challenge as well. Hotkey the summon and the unsummon. All right. Okay, incidentally, too, we are not going to be... We're not going to be using a headband. Not with this hairstyle. He looks dumb with this hairstyle. So we're going to skip that. Uh-oh. Somebody's on us. All right. So we've got Cassius summon. Let's set summon to 5, unsummon to 6. Engine effects to 7. Okay. Are you okay, Gale? Do we need to call an ambulance or something? You alright, Gale? Okay. Well, look who it is. It's good to see you again. What are we doing exactly? Oh, are you going to storm that fortress? Excellent idea. How about I come along as an observer? What you say? Ah, look it. Your Imperial friends are here.
He's always looking for strong, capable warriors. If you think you got what it takes, our headquarters are in solitude.
What do you say, old man? They're looking for strong, capable warriors. That's you, isn't it not? I think you should kill this man. He's obviously up to something. Don't you think? Ah, I'm leaving. He's just sneaky.
See ya.
Hello, it's me. You haven't even said hi. That's just rude. What is it you want exactly? Oh, I don't want anything. I'm just coming along for the ride. Excuse me. What is it? Are we going to run the whole way there? Not that I get winded, but I thought you might like a horse or something. Isn't that what soldiers do, ride horses and all that? I am unpledged. I know that. Well, then you know, as unpledged, I am not allowed to possess a horse. It is the rules. Rules? What's all this about rules? Sounds ridiculous to me. You want to survive or not? Maybe you should get a horse. Fuck the rules. I do wish you would go away. Oh, that can be arranged. I'll see you tomorrow. Shit, he's gone again. It creeps me out. What are you doing here? Did you kill this deer? How about you? Anything to say? Oh, I seriously doubt they have anything to say. They look like zealots to me. I suggest you just leave them to rot. They'll sit here and shit their pants for all we know. That's how they worship, I assume. Divine shitters. Oh, they could be coming to get you. I have done nothing. What is happening here? I'd say they've got a beef with these two mages. Perhaps you should help. Why is no one fighting? I don't understand it. When he's fighting, no one else is. Please, go away. Stop haunting me. All right. All right. Let's do a quick save. And a quick load. All right. A little curious about that. We had some enemies not attacking who probably should have been. Ha! Look! There's a war on. Perhaps you should get out there. Isn't that what you live for? It's ironic, don't you think? Living for dying? I'll never understand you soldiers. All blood and guts. It's fine, whatever you wish. It is not your concern. Well, of course it is. You entertain me. Well, why don't you come and fight then? Oh, I don't fight. It's a piece of work. A piece of work indeed. Ah, look, it is a Stormcloak. Hello. Done. Ah. Well, now you've put your foot in it. Now they're angry at you. I say, did you stab that one in the back? That's very uncharacteristic of you. Hello! Oh, that doesn't hurt me at all. I don't know why you bother. Oh, look at this. Oh, that tickles. I think she likes me. Oh, stop it. That is enough. That sword is ludicrous, by the way. It is quite large. Oh, we should get out of here. Oh, you've sheathed your weapon. That's a shame if you run out of people to kill. I'm sure you can find some women and children about, can't you? Should they be next on your list? I do not have a list, as you speak of. I kill who needs killing. It is war. No, it isn't. It's just sanctioned murder. That's all it is. It occurs to me that you do not belong here. Go away. All right. I'll see you at dinner. What do you think of that, huh? That's going to be fucking fabulous. Oh my god. I love it. Now, the area where I still need some practice is getting between voices, right? Because each of these voices is fairly distinct, and you'll notice that sometimes there's a little bit of a pause while I collect my thoughts and try to switch voices on the fly. The more that I do this, the easier that will get until it becomes second nature. But it's going to be a little bit sketchy the first few episodes. So that'll be interesting. Huh. Oh, hey. Look at me. I'm buried in a rock. What do you say? There we go. Oh, this is excellent. I do love war. I should have been a soldier. Don't you think? I think you're mad. That is what I think. Of course I am. I'm a fucking ghost. Why wouldn't I be a bit mad? I mean, honestly. I think you should stab that man in the back. Oh, come on. Do it for me. Would you please? Yes. Look at it. Oh, it's called the Magic Dance of War. Do you like it? Oh, yes. Look it. They're coming for you. No, look it. They pass right by. They don't seem threatened by you in the least. Doesn't that bother you? I mean, you are the big scary dog, are you not? Ah, they just told you to die. I suggest you beat them to the punch. Come, man. Carve through them. Excellent. Keep the shield up now. That's what they say. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We've play tested, I think, what we need to. This should be some good data, some good intel for Balefish. Again, ginormous thank you to Balefish for his help in all of this. I think that, in combination with the concept and some of the ideas that you guys have been helping me with, are going to make this, I think, one of the better stories I've done, at least just in terms of depth. I'm pretty excited for it. Well, hopefully we didn't hit a infinite load screen here. It's kind of looking like we might. Okay, so the plan is that, yeah, this is going to start on September 18th. And I've been looking ahead at the schedule. And it looks as though, yeah, infinite load screen. I feel like I've got some instability here I still need to address. So I'm going to have to start going through these mods one at a time, figuring out what's going on. But stream nights, the story is going to be on Wednesday nights from 7 to 10. That is a plan. Wednesday night, 7 to 10. And right now, starting September 18th, I've got those Wednesday nights mapped out through the month of November. I don't know what will happen around the holidays, but shooting for consistency. That's about it. If you've got other ideas, comments, thoughts on anything you've seen here and kind of the direction we're going, certainly feel free to throw them up on Discord. I do appreciate your support. Thank you all very much. I am going to call it a night, I think. So, all right, you guys take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next stream, whenever that is.